Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The city of Kronos had always been shrouded in mystique, a place where the boundaries between the past, present, and future blurred into one. Perched atop a cliff overlooking a world that thrived on its influence, Kronos existed to keep time in balance. At the heart of the city was the most powerful artifact ever known, the Wheel of Time, a relic that controlled the flow of time itself. But now that balance had been shattered. Noah stood at the edge of the council chamber, his heart pounding as the High Council members exchanged worried glances. His fingers gripped the hilt of his sword, a relic passed down through generations of guardians, though he knew the blade was useless against the chaos that had descended upon the world. "The Wheel of Time has been stolen," Iori said, Elder Seraphis, his voice heavy with the weight of the news. The old man leaned on his staff, his eyes clouded with age, but there was no mistaking the urgency in his tone. "Donald, without it, the fabric of time unravels." Noah's breath caught in his throat. He had been a guardian for as long as he could remember, trained from childhood to protect the city and the wheel, but never in his wildest dreams had he imagined something like this could happen. Seraphis turned to face Noah, his weathered face solemn. "Daring Noah, we are entrusting this mission to you. You must recover the Wheel of Time before the distortions become irreversible." Noah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle on his shoulder. "But how can I track it? The thief could be anywhere in time, any era." "Take this," Seraphis said, holding out a small ancient device, a compass of time. Its surface shimmered with the faint glow of magic. "Iori, this will guide you, trust in it, and it will show you the way." Noah hesitated, his fingers brushing the compass as he took it. The device felt warm in his hand, pulsating with an energy that seemed to connect directly to the essence of time itself. He nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "I won, Tifel," he said, though the enormity of the task still loomed large in his mind. With a final glance at the council, he turned and walked out of the chamber, knowing that every second he wasted, the world outside was falling deeper into chaos. As he stepped into the open air, the once serene streets of Kronos were now a reflection of the world, sent disarray. People rushed through the streets, some aging rapidly, others regressing to their childhood form. Temporal distortions rippled through the fabric of reality, causing buildings to shift in and out of different architectural styles from past and future centuries. He felt the urgency pressing against him like a tangible force. Noah activated the compass of time, and the needle whirred to life, spinning wildly before settling on a direction. Without hesitation, he followed its lead, feeling a familiar jolt as time around him warped. The landscape blurred as he was pulled through the veil of eras, traveling to his first destination, the ancient past. The sensation of time travel left his body tingling, as if every molecule had been stretched and snapped back into place. When the world around him solidified again, he found himself in a place that felt both alien and familiar. He stood at the edge of a sprawling city, its towering stone walls weathered by centuries of existence. This was the ancient era, long before Kronos City had even been conceived, and yet there was something about it that resonated with Noah, a connection to the past that ran deeper than he could explain. As he stepped forward, his boots kicking up dust, a voice called out from the shadows, "Stranger, hold your ground." Noah turned, his hand instinctively reaching for his sword, but he held off, drawing it. A figure emerged from behind a crumbling pillar, a woman clad in leather armor, her hand resting on the hilt of a jagged blade. "I'm not here to fight," Noah said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Brave I am, searching for something, an artifact that..." "The Wheel of Time," she interrupted, her voice low and wary. Her sharp eyes studied him, as if weighing his every word. "Try it's not the first time I've heard that name." Noah's pulse quickened. "You know of it." The woman approached, her stance still guarded, but less hostile now. "My name is Athena. My people once wielded a similar power, a way to control time. But that power was lost when the wheel was first taken from us." She stopped in front of him, her expression hardening. "Tare, we believed it destroyed, but clearly it wasn't." Noah frowned in. "I am from the future. Kronos City was built around the wheel, and now it's been stolen again. I need to find it before it destroys everything." Athena's eyes narrowed. "And why should I trust you?" Because if I don't to recover the wheel, all of time will collapse. Your past, my future, everything will be lost. For a long moment, she stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. Finally, she sighed and sheathed her sword. What, Dad? If what you say is true, then we don't have time to waste. There are creatures born from the distortion wreaking havoc in this era. They may have been drawn here by the thief. If you're really serious about finding the wheel, you'll need to deal with them first. Noah nodded, grateful for her cooperation. Freth lead the way. Athena turned, motioning for him to follow as they made their way through the ruins of her city. The air was thick with tension, the kind that only came from the fear of the unknown. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the city, the signs of temporal chaos became more pronounced. Buildings flickering between different forms, people trapped in cycles of aging and de-aging, some even disappearing into thin air. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. Athena drew her sword as a low growl echoed through the street. They were here, she said, her voice steady but tense. Noah unsheathed his own blade, his heart pounding as the shadows around them began to twist and writhe. Out of the darkness, the creatures emerged, monstrous beings that defied the laws of nature. Their bodies flickered in and out of existence, like phantoms caught between time, their forms grotesque and ever-shifting. With a swift motion, Athena charged at the nearest creature, her blade slicing through its distorted form. It let out a shriek, dissolving into nothingness. Noah followed suit, his sword cutting through the chaos. But for every beast they felled, more seemed to take its place. These things are endless, Noah shouted, narrowly avoiding a swipe from one of the creatures. They feed off the time distortions. Athena replied, her voice strained as she fought. Dearie, we define the source. The two of them pressed forward, cutting their way through the horde until they reached the center of the city. There, standing at the heart of the chaos, was a swirling vortex, a tear in the fabric of time itself. Noah's eyes widened as he realized what they were up against. The vortex pulsed with raw energy, drawing everything around it into its depth. We have to close it, Noah said, his mind racing. It seemed the only way to stop the creatures. Athena nodded, but before they could act, a figure emerged from the vortex. A man cloaked in shadow, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. "You're too late," the figure said, his voice echoing unnaturally. "Dari, the wheel of time is beyond your reach." Now that Noah's eyes, heart sank as the figure raised a hand, and the vortex began to expand, threatening to consume them all. Noah's grip tightened on his sword as the cloaked figure's presence seemed to warp the very air around them. Athena shifted beside him, her eyes fixed on the figure as if recognizing something in him. The vortex behind the man pulsated violently, sending ripples through the ground. "You don't have to do this," Noah said, stepping forward cautiously. "The world doesn't have to fall apart. Just give me the wheel of time, and we can set things right." The figure chuckled, a cold, mirthless sound that echoed through the broken street. "Set things right." His voice oozed with disdain. "Do you think the wheel can save you? It says the very thing that's been destroying us. Time isn't meant to be controlled." Athena's voice cut through the tension. "True Lucis, aren't you, Tia?" Her eyes narrowed as she spoke. "I remember your name. You were once a guardian like Noah." Lucis tilted his head, his shadowed face partially illuminated by the light of the vortex. Once he said softly, "But I saw the truth. The wheel of time shouldn't be under the control of any one city, any one council. Time belongs to everyone, and it should flow freely. But Chronos..."
They can own it. Shape it. That's where you ran from.
Noah's mind raced. Seraphis had spoken of a betrayal long ago, a guardian who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. It hadn't made sense then, but now the pieces were falling into place. Lucius hadn't just disappeared. He'd stolen the wheel, and now the world was paying the price for it. "You're tearing the world apart," Noah said, his voice rising. "Look around you. Time is collapsing. People are suffering. You can't just continue." Lucius stepped closer, his glowing eyes locked on Noah. The suffering was always there. Chronos only kept it hidden, masked behind their illusion of control. "I am freeing us from that control. The distortions, they were temporary. Once time is free, everything will settle into its natural order." Noah clenched his jaw. "And what about the people who die in the process? What about the chaos you're leaving behind? Is that part of your plan too?" Lucy's smile faded. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. Athena raised her sword. Noah could feel the tension crackling in the air like static. The vortex was growing, feeding on the instability, and the creatures were still lurking at the edges, waiting for their chance to strike. He needed to act. Now, without warning, Lucius raised his hand and a wave of energy shot toward them. Noah barely had time to raise his sword in defense, the force slamming into him and sending him skidding backward across the broken ground. Athena dodged to the side, rolling to her feet with practiced ease, her blade gleaming in the dim light. Noah staggered to his feet, his body aching from the impact. He could feel the compass of time pulsing against his chest, a steady rhythm like the ticking of a clock. It was calling to him, guiding him. He had to stop Lucius, but how? His eyes flicked to the vortex, now swirling wildly, drawing in debris, dust, and light. That was the key. If he could disrupt it, maybe he could stop Lucius from wielding the wheel's power. Athena was already charging at Lucius, her blade slicing through the air with lethal precision. Lucius deflected her blows with an almost casual grace, his power warping the space around him. Noah knew she couldn't hold him off forever. Noah took a deep breath, his mind racing as he focused on the vortex. He could feel the pull of it, the way it bent time and space around them if he could just get close enough. He sprinted toward it, his sword held tightly in his hand as he neared the vortex. The air grew thick, heavy with the weight of time itself. It felt like wading through molasses, each step more difficult than the last. But he pushed on, his determination burning in his chest. Behind him, he heard Athena cry out, her voice strained as Lucius unleashed another wave of energy. He didn't look back. He couldn't tell. His focus was entirely on the vortex, on the swirling chaos before him. With a final burst of strength, he lunged forward, plunging his sword into the heart of the vortex. Time seemed to freeze, the world around him stilled, the air thick with anticipation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a shockwave erupted from the vortex, a blast of raw energy that sent Noah sprawling backward, his body hitting the ground hard. He gasped for breath, his vision swimming as the vortex flickered and began to collapse in on itself. Lucius let out a furious roar, the power he had been harnessing slipping from his grasp. Athena seized the opportunity, her blade slicing through the air as she charged at him again, this time with renewed strength. Noah struggled to his feet, his body screaming in protest. He could see the vortex shrinking, its pull weakening as it lost its connection to the wheel of time. But it wasn't over yet. Lucius still had control over the artifact, and as long as he did, time would remain in jeopardy. Athena's sword clashed with Lucius's, sparks flying as the two fought with deadly precision. Lucius was powerful, his mastery of time giving him the upper hand, but Athena was relentless, her strikes fueled by years of training and a desire for justice. Noah gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain as he moved toward them. He could feel the compass of time still pulsing against his chest, its rhythm now steady, and sure it was guiding him, showing him the way. In a sudden flash of clarity, Noah realized what he had to do. He couldn't simply destroy the wheel or let Lucius keep it. The artifact was too powerful, too dangerous for anyone to wield, but he could sever its connection to this world, disperse its power across time itself. As Athena and Lucius clashed, Noah focused all his energy on the compass, drawing on its power. He could feel the flow of time shifting around him, the threads of past, present, and future intertwining in a delicate balance. With a deep breath, he reached out, grasping the ethereal connection that tied the wheel to the city of Kronos and to Lucia. Lucius sensed the change immediately. His eyes widened in alarm as he felt the power slipping from his grasp. "What are you doing?" Snarled, his voice tinged with panic. Noah didn't re-answer. He closed his eyes, his focus unyielding as he pulled on the threads of time, unraveling the connection that had bound the wheel to Kronos for centuries. The air around him crackled with energy, the very fabric of reality bending as time began to flow freely once more. Lucius let out a scream of rage as the last of the wheels that power was torn from him, his body flickering in and out of existence as the temporal distortions caught up with him. With one final desperate cry, he vanished into the ether, lost to the very time he had sought to control. The vortex collapsed in on itself, the remaining energy dissipating into the air. The world around them stilled, the distortions fading as time slowly returned to its natural state. Noah sank to his knees, exhaustion washing over him. The compass of time lay silent against his chest, its purpose fulfilled. He glanced at Athena, who was breathing heavily but otherwise unharmed. "It is done," she said, her voice quiet but resolute. Noah nodded, his body aching from the battle. The wheel, it's gone. Athena sheathed her sword, her expression somber. Toral, you did what had to be done. Time is free now. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of their journey settling over them. The world was still, the chaos of the past few days finally at an end. Noah knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The city of Kronos would have to adapt to this new reality, to a world where time flowed without interference. But he also knew that this was the only way forward. The wheel of time was too dangerous to remain in the hands of any one person, any one city. As they made their way back to the ruins of the ancient city, Noah felt a sense of peace settle over him. He had fulfilled his mission, but more importantly, he had learned the true nature of time. It wasn't meant to be controlled, but to be respected, understood. In the distance, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape. Time would continue to flow and life would go on, and Noah, no longer just a guardian, would walk a new path, one that would take him beyond the boundaries of Kronos, beyond the limits of time itself.